Hello everyone, welcome to another episode from Min Pixels. I'm Ray. In this video, I'm gonna address one question that I have been asked quite a lot, which is when you're shooting in a studio environment, what you wanna do is to cue your ambient light to use your flash or strobes as your moonlight. But the problem is when you have killed your ambient light, what you see from your camera's EVF or LCD is completely darkness. You just cannot compose the image correctly. That is because most of the mirrorless cameras are by default set to preview the exposure. And actually that's one of the advantages of using a mirrorless camera because you always get what you see from the LCD or the EVF. But the problem is when you have killed your ambient light, what your camera actually sees is completely darkness. That's why you cannot see anything from your EVF or your LCD. And we need a way to turn off that exposure preview to properly compose the image. And now I'm gonna show you how. So now we're in a studio environment and you can see we are shooting a vase from there. And now my camera is set to default, which is to preview the exposure. And you can tell my setting is ISO 3200 and shutter speed is 250 and the aperture is f4. So I'm gonna dial in my Euro studio setting. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna turn the aperture to f8 and you can already see the image is darkening. And I'll turn the ISO to the base ISO 160 and I'll keep the shutter speed at 250, which is the highest sync speed of the Fujifilm X-T3. Now what you can see is nothing, and because I have killed the ambient light, what you can see is just a complete darkness. So now I'm gonna dive into the menu, go to settings, and go to screen setup and go to the second page of screen setup. And the first item, what you can see is preview exposure white balance in manual mode. And right now it's the camera's default setting, which is to preview the exposure and white balance. Now I'm gonna turn it to off. Let's see what happens. It may take a while. Okay, now what you can see is you can see the proper exposure image from the LCD, but that's not the actual exposure from your camera. It just gives you a way to compose your image. And let's take a photo of that vase. Okay, let's see the image. Okay, it's pretty good. So this is how you turn off the exposure preview in the studio environment to compose your image correctly. But another problem is this method is quite cumbersome. You have to dive into the menu every time you want to make the adjustment. So what we want to do is to assign that function to a function button of your Fujifilm X-T3. And what I use is I assign that function to this AEL function button. So what you're gonna do is you long press the display and back button, and now you're in the function setting quick menu, and you go to the second page and you find that AEL button, and then you program it to preview exposure white balance in manual mode. And now what you're gonna do is every time you want to use or to turn off that functionality, you just keep pressing the AEL button. So now the preview exposure in manual mode on, you can see the ambient light is killed, it's completely dark, and then press it again, and now it's previewing the white balance, which I don't use a lot, and then you press again, and this is to turn off the preview exposure in manual mode. Alright, this is how you view and compose your image correctly when you have killed the ambient light in a studio environment. And I hope you find this video helpful. If you do, please give a like and subscribe to my channel, and I will see you next time. Bye!